Welcome to the Fireside Chat, Jay.
Okay, now I can hear you. Yeah, I mean, like I was thinking about that, dude. I mean, I was like, I don't want to get exposed online.
Oh, we're not exposing anything. Now, before I start, I gotta go grab myself something to drink because my throat's gonna get dry.
Mm.
Now, I will say this, like I told the Owl Man and Matt Super for Saturday's show. I'm I'm not censoring anything. I just don't want anything to get too crazy. We'll try to be respectful, but I
Mm.
mean, we're normal people. You know, just because I'm a politician, just because I'm in the political sphere, doesn't mean that I can't have a normal conversation and talk the way I normally would talk. And it's the same thing, but we're not doing none of that circle BS.
Yeah,
Uh, now,
but
I did.
like, I'm not gonna talk about the circle. I'm just gonna talk about the things I usually talk about.
That's fine. Now, I had wrote a monologue yet last night, but because I'm going to be doing a show on Saturday, I'm I'm going to skip over the monologue for the most part. I'll do a mini monologue that's going to come off the top of my head, and then we'll go ahead and start with the show. But before I do that, let me turn this game off on my phone, and then I also got to make sure I apologize to the viewers that will be viewing this because it's not live. I want to make that known. It's not live. I don't know how to do the live thing from the game. So what I have is I'm recording the game and I'm going to be posting it later on. But for some reason, whenever I start recording the game, at the very beginning, there's like this big staticky noise, and I don't know where it comes from. I've tried to figure out where it comes from. It only happens when I record gameplay footage, and I don't know why. So want to apologize for that. Now, before I start talking with you, Jay, I want to go ahead and introduce my audience to who you are and how I came across you. And this game, DC Universe Online, I've been playing it for a long time. You've been playing it for a long time, and I think it was about a year and a half ago. When I first came into the chat, and there's this crazy Mexican screaming on the microphone, and so I decided, well, you've you're 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 raping my ears, so I'm gonna take one of those cars out there in Bohemia, and I'm gonna throw a car at you. I think that was my first introduction to DemonicJay. And as I started talking to you over the last year and a half or so, I've come to find out your political views and your religious beliefs, and we've come and we've looked at it. We don't agree on everything, but we can have common ground and talk about a lot of things. And I think that's an important thing. And made we've made a lot of friends. We've got a whole thing with the Lords of Five, you, me, Matt Super, the Owl Man, Mega Man. We'll try to keep Mega Man's other name to a to a to not mention, but um, we've been able to get together and exchange ideas with a different bunch of people. Sometimes we have a couple of people from the other chat room that have come in and actually join the conversation. Sometimes they come in and kill the conversation, but for the most part, we can have good civil conversation, and I think that's the most important thing. And and while I don't have a monologue prepared for this show, I am going to use tidbits of the monologue that I've already written, and because I'm going to be reading this entire thing on Saturday, so there's no need of me reading it now, and then I have to read it again. But I am going to read one portion of it. And when you and I talk, and when I'm talking in 5v5 with Matt Super and Owlman and whomever, we're always talking about what makes America so great and so unique. And as I was reading here, the preamble to the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and particularly in the Declaration of Independence, this phrase right here is the phrase that sets so many things in motion, including the Civil Rights Act and including the Civil War. The phrase, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." And then we go on to the preamble to the Constitution, very familiar, where we say, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, do ordain this Constitution." And I think you probably heard me call these. I don't know if it was you or Mega Man. One of the two of you heard me speak of these three: life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And you know my campaign is life, liberty, and justice for all. But I call these the three principles of freedom that make up America. The Constitution in the preamble says we have the right to protect the life, and we have guaranteed liberty, which is the freedom to be able to choose and make our own decisions. And then we have the right to pursue happiness. And that's the most important one to me, because it's all about personal responsibility, personal accountability, and having a goal and a dream and doing it to the best of your ability, of all you've got, and having faith that you'll be able to see it. And you're a religious man, I'm a religious man, and you finally found your way into my castle.
Yes, sir. I've actually been on the right seat over there. I've been watching. So instead of interrupting you all the time like I was the other day in chat, I wanted you to finish your thought, because we can go off one little topic and we can go forever and ever. But the one thing I really want to say about what you just said is, I'm a Christian, so I'm always saying, God bless America. I love the presence that God is in here, in Jesus Christ. What do you think when I have critics, people telling me, saying the Constitution wasn't written with God and God has never been, part of the government? And I always start questioning them, like, which God were they talking about in the Constitution?
Well, in the Constitution doesn't necessarily mention God, but the Declaration of Independence does, and that's what I just read. If you go back and you read the Declaration of Independence, where it says, and I'll read this verse again because it's so important. "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed." This is the part that tells you that we are built on our Christian values. It says that they are endowed by their Creator, and the usage of grammar. And I've always said this as a person who loves to study literature. The usage of grammar is very important, because they capitalized the C in Creator, meaning that this was the name of our God, the Judeo-Christian God that we believe in, and that He endowed us with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So the Constitution itself says that we have the rights to freedom of speech and the freedom of religion, but it was our Christian beliefs, our Judeo-Christian beliefs, that established that Constitution in that way. Because remember, when the Americans first started, they started from the colonies and the Puritans. And the Puritans led to the Salem witch trials, which was a horrible moment in history. But from that, it led to a broader understanding of Christianity, of our God, of our religion, but it also led to the separation of the two powers of church and state, because at the time of the Puritans, there was no separation of church and state. So the Salem witch trials could happen because they didn't have a governing system that said that the church was not in sole control. That way,
Um,
that wouldn't happen again.
I'm sorry. So when I've noticed that whenever the Romans adapted Christianity, they had the separation of church and state. Is that not the same thing, or is this something different?
It's a little bit different because the Romans, when they first adopted Christianity, the Romans had many different people, and it took them a long time before they were able to fully implement Christianity. And as you know, it was Constantine that set up in motion the great Christian imperialist movement of Constantine.
Yes, sir. He wanted to bring in the two separations of the ruling to be one, and then he used the monolithic God of the Bible to say that there's only one God and one man.
Yes, and so Constantine was very Christian almost to a fault, but he was a warlike Christian. And it's because of Constantine that
I'm sorry, you
Christianity
cut out.
spread. Did I cut out?
Yes, yes.
Can you hear me? Am I good?
Go ahead and start from whenever you start talking about Constantine.
Okay. So I was saying was Constantine was uh, it's probably the reason why Christianity spread as much as it did. Constantine, he was a warlike man. He was a very Christian man, and he did a lot of things for recognition. Number one, but it was because of him and his rapid expansion of the Christian Empire at the time, the Roman Catholic Church. Constantine spread Christianity further than anything else. It's because of Constantine that uh, China's most prominent religion for a good portion of its time became Christianity, thanks to Constantine, because Constantine had invaded and took over so much territory, all the way up from Persia to China, all the way over to England and Wales. And
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Look, the Roman Empire was, first, broadly outcasted in its territory by Alexander the Great. 332 years, I guess, I don't know, I'm thinking, before Christ. But the Roman Empire was always shrinking after that, and I thought the Romans were actually losing the land slowly and slowly by the caliphates and stuff like that.
Well, those things
I mean,
didn't come to
I didn't
pass
hear about
until
expansion. I heard about that the Christianity went to China through the trade routes,
those didn't happen
and they
until
went because of
much
the trade
later.
routes.
It wasn't until much
Okay.
later after that, because during the time of Alexander the Great, Alexander the Great's time of rule was before Christianity became a big staple in Rome.
Yes, sir. But when I said that, I meant like the dominance of the land, not about with Christianity.
Oh yeah, yeah. The
Christianity
dominance of the
became by
land.
Constantine.
They
Yes,
did
sir.
the Romans had a great empire, a great ability to influence the world, and that's the reason why. This is like you said with the trade. The reason why so many people became um, enriched by Christianity was because of the Romans' ability to influence so many different peoples. You had the Egyptians, you had the Middle Easterns, you had uh, the the Asians, largely China. China was the big one, and it spread like wildfire for a time, and it overtook the world to the point where it was the most prominent religion in the world at the time of Constantine.
So tell me more about these Quakers. I mean, I remember in eighth grade, I remember that they were being persecuted. I didn't know that they were being persecuted for what they're persecuted for. But I think nowadays, I mean, was they running for their religion? I mean, I don't know really about much Quakers now. But what do you know?
Well, the persecution, no, no, the persecution, of course, when you have the things when you're dealing with Christianity. Christianity uh, has been and today, and more likely, is the most persecuted religion of all of them. And back then, Judeo-Christianity, because it had not yet became Christianity, it was still relatively uh, Jewish and Gentile. So Judeo-Christianity was the most persecuted form of religion at the time, being that the Hebrew people were almost almost wiped out from existence by the Romans. They were almost wiped out from existence by the Egyptians several generations before the Romans did. And when you had people like Nero setting up all of these different types of protests against them, violent protests, similar to some things that we see today, and the Christian community became very persecuted for their beliefs uh, because of Christ being here in the flesh on the earth. And when you have someone as prominent as Jesus Christ walking the earth, and you can see that this guy's doing all these things, and he's ripping a veil or a blanket off of so many different people and their religions, you can see how it makes somebody become really defensive. And when we come over here
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
into the
I mean,
Americas,
we had the disciples being killed just willing to go out and preach the word. I mean, it's happening. So, what do you think about? We face the same thing nowadays in America. I mean, we had these Christian Judeo values when we started the Constitution and had God in our money system and our manifest destiny and our thinking, and the way that we said that He gives us these unalienable rights by God. What do you think now about how politics at the moment is? Leftists or the Democrats are persecuting Christians. Fire them. The coach that fired the baker that is getting sued for the third time. The new bill that Trump is trying to push now, that you can now, if you claim that your organization is a Christian organization, maybe you will have to pay taxes, but then at least discriminate to say, well, I don't want to make homosexual cake. Like
well,
same thing with Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A has openly said that they have their Christian reason that they don't open on Sundays, and then they boycotted. What do you think about this nowadays?
this is the way it works here in America. You know, I've said this many times to you, Matt Super, and a bunch of other people. Uh, our Christian beliefs and our American way of living has been under attack for a long time by the liberal machine, and they've been trying to remove and eliminate God from everything. And now you have so many people uh, whom I've whom I've respected, but when you take a look at what they support, the beliefs that they support, and the fact that they're willing to roll over and allow this destruction of our beliefs to happen because of politics, because they don't like a certain person, because a news organization told them not to like a certain person, and they didn't use their own critical thinking skills to to look and see exactly what policies would better their life. Uh, so
Yes, sir.
I'll go on with the example
Well,
that you gave
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I wanted to a different part understand your answer. Let me just put it this way. I've always been that child. I'm sorry to bring my childhood into this, but I was always like, what about him? She would be like, Thomas, go throw the trash, and be like, no, we don't want to do it. And they was like, Jay, go throw the trash. I'm like, what about him? I'm like, so I have that same mentality when it comes to the left and the Democratic side, protecting Islam, protecting, saying that they want to help all the minorities. So why is Christianity excluded from this? Why is Christianity, like the white man, excluded from this mindset? Is it because of their expansion and the way they always say that the white Christian male in his European conquest doesn't have
well,
necessarily the respect that they want respect
is
for their own
that's
community, for
not the
their
reason
own
at all.
religions?
The reason why Christianity is under attack is because Christianity, along with science, by the way, it 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 doesn't justify their belief. Christianity tells us that homosexuality is a sin, but it's in the way of their belief that you can be homosexual. Christianity tells us that that you are a man and you are a woman. It doesn't it you're not a wolf in a person's body. Christianity and science tells us that, but those things have gotten in the way of their agenda. And so what they've been trying to do is remove that from the way. And then because you have to take a look at how the millennials and the liberals think. They hate everything that has to do with history. And so they're trying to remove history out of the way and replace it virtue signaling basically. I mean, this is the main reason they why they say they hate Christianity is because of the Magna Carta and the Crusades back several thousand years ago. And these wars where the Christian Empire, the Roman Catholic Church, was going up against the Byzantine Empire, which was a majority Muslim empire, and there was lots of deaths that were involved in the Magna Carta and the Crusades. And so with the virtue signaling, what they're doing is they're trying to say, well, we're not like those people of old. We are we're hip, we're woke, as the young people say. I can't stand that word, but you say we're woke, and we don't represent the past. And so they try to put that into today, where they do the same thing with white people. They try to say, well, white people did this in the past, and so we have to shame white people for things they did in the past. But they only target white people, and they only target Christianity because it's the only thing that they can scapegoat. If they were to target the majority Muslim nations in Africa, that lead to the deaths of so many African citizens, they'd be hypocritical. If they were to point out the slave masters that were African and that the slave trade started there, they'd be hypocritical. It wouldn't justify their point or their mean to scapegoat somebody so that they can, so as I've said before, so they can play the race card and the moral high ground. And so they do all of this to try to justify their meaning in existence, for the reason why they can be violent towards people, the reason why they can come out and attack people for their beliefs, for not thinking the way they think. And that's why I wrote this monologue that we'll get into Saturday. But it's because they don't want to be held responsible for making their own decisions. So they want to get rid of everything that tells them that they need to be responsible for their decisions and replace that with government. And so now government becomes their decision maker and their provider. And that's where they're wrong.
Okay, so actually, good thing I let you finish on that. So, when you see government styles, which ones are the ones that have the most prosperity? Usually Judeo-Christian. There's the United States. I mean, I don't know about Canada, but Canada seems to be doing something good too. I don't know if they have that kind of belief in their system, but
Well,
I don't know about Europe.
Canada is a majority Christian place. I will say that about Canada.
Okay. So with these laws being placed like that, when you think about other nations, I mean, is Russia? What do you think Russia has its laws? And it's a communist style, but even Hitler didn't like Christianity because it made people not aggressive. I mean, they
Well,
just everybody like neighbors.
Hitler did like Christianity, and
No, he used Christianity.
as a matter of fact,
I think he used Christianity.
he used it to attack the Jewish people. And but we won't use Hitler for example here. But when you talk about the prosperity in many other nations, America is the only one that gets it. That's the reason why America became the superpower that it is today. Familiar verse, Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1. I'm pretty sure you know what it says. It says in chapter 11, verse 1 of Hebrews, that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And in America's Constitution, it says in the preamble that we have the rights to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity. And our Declaration says we have the right to pursue happiness. So America's the only one that get it. America was the only one that set up a system based off of these principles that says that if you have a little bit of faith and put forth a little bit of effort and work into achieving a goal that you have, and the substance of it, the substance of your faith will become the hope, and your hope should be replaced by work and effort and research and whatever it is that you need to accomplish that goal. And the evidence of that will be what you have not yet seen. And so you take a look at America. We're 250 something years old, 252. We're a very young country, but we have the wealthiest people in the world. We have the greatest country that has ever existed because of how our system worked. If you look at the John D. Rockefellers, Andrew Carnegie's, Henry Ford's, all of these great people that we've had here in our country, they had a dream and a vision, and they pursued it. And then not only did they pursue it, but they took that idea and rather than keeping it to themselves, they expanded it upon the rest of the world. And that's the uh, philanthropist's idea that you share the wealth of knowledge to allow people to be able to get up on your level. And remember what I was telling you about the Chinese proverb: if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but if you teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. America followed that principle where rather than always giving away things, we used to teach people how to do the exact same. And the countries that benefited from that were the countries that were able to become prosperous in a capitalist society, like Canada, like the UK, France, and even China to
You
a
see,
degree.
and that's the funny thing that proverb comes from China, but they're not capitalism. What's the opposite of capitalism? Socialism. So they have
China's a
the
communist
government
nation.
really taking more in.
China's a communist nation, but China's communism is predicated on America's capitalism. China can't make money without America, and it's because communism, like socialism, does not generate any money. The only
So
the only way.
what
Oh,
do you
go
feel
ahead.
about these trade wars then with China? I mean,
Well,
since I was growing up, I've always seen made in China, made in China. So
well,
do you believe that Donald Trump is doing the right by doing this,
he's
putting them
absolutely
in restrict?
doing
That's because he wants them to have better tariffs and to have
he's
better business deals. I mean, to force them though, are we being too, aggressive?
no, we're not being aggressive. We're not being aggressive enough. Donald Trump is doing exactly what should have been done a long time ago to China. You see, tariffs are not a bad thing. They're a good thing, but it takes a good business person to do them the right way. And fortunately, Donald Trump, been a person who's been a businessman all his life, becoming president and being in charge of tariffs was the best thing that could have happened. And that's the reason why you see people like Chuck Schumer on Donald Trump's side on China. Because for years, people have been saying, we got to do something about China. But nobody knew how to do it. And they were afraid to impose tariffs, and they were afraid to get good, a good, conclusive, closed deal with China. And a deal is yes or no. But what they always settled for was a maybe. And China would just rip us off, take our intellectual property, and continue to put these high tariffs on us and take tremendous amount of money from us every year. And that's the way China was able to build its wealth. But when you take a look at what the president's been able to do by placing a couple of tariffs on China, it it basically put a giant clamp on China's economy because their economy does not generate income. Hong Kong, when it was returned to China in 1997 by the British Empire, Hong Kong was what gave China as something that could build wealth. But Hong Kong by itself, being under China's rule, does not generate enough income to be able to sustain China. And so,
It's funny. I was looking that up. They were saying that it was like 23% of its GDP. And now that now at this day and age, it's gone roughly down to 3%. I mean, do you think now that this is why they're
well, it's a lot of things. The reason why they're doing those things over there, but it's as I said, because China they don't have the ability to generate income. Without America, China's economy collapses, and America's economy, being capitalist, is the only economy that can continue to generate wealth. And when you look at the tariffs, the only people that have been affected by the tariffs have been China and corporations that build in China. And you notice that with
yes, sir.
Apple.
I mean,
Apple's
not only China,
Tim
but I mean,
Cook.
there
Um,
was I've heard a cry out from Germany
well,
saying that they're
Germany.
not exporting the cars that they used to. They're not exporting these
Well,
bins. They're not exporting them.
Germany doesn't have any tariffs from the United States, so it's not. It's,
But
the
they feel
United
like they're being
States,
stifled at the
yeah,
moment. A
is
week
is
ago,
not
I
been.
heard a news report about it.
Well, the United States has not been affected by the tariffs, except for the stock market, which the media continues to try to scare people into spending their into buying and selling off their stocks because they want to see a recession. They've actually been rooting for one, and so they've been fear mongering, trying to get people to do that. But if they will hold on for a little bit, you'll see that the market will go up tremendously as it did when it came back and recovered. Um, and you'll see that our economy continues to grow. China's economy is is decreasing. And when you look at
Well,
the uh,
what do you know about bonds? They said that it works in a good cycle because they sell their goods to us, they get our U.S. dollar, and then they buy their dollar out of our dollar. And their bond, buy bonds and stuff, increasing,
well, see, a bond, this is what I did. It was finance and investments. A bond is a debt. And so that's the reason why China has 20 something percent of the United States total national deficit because they are the largest purchaser of American bonds. And a bond simply means is that, say for instance, DemonicJay opens DemonicJay's Mexican hot dog stand, and
yes, yes, sir.
and you
Yeah,
need a
you know
little,
what?
you
Mexican
need a
taco
little,
stand. I
yeah,
like tacos.
taco stand with the sombrero and everything. And so you need $1,000 from King Odin to start your business, to jumpstart it. So what I'll do is I'll buy a bond, which is basically me giving your company or business a loan. I'll buy a bond, and we'll write out a deal, a certificate of bond that you will pay me back a certain amount of money over a period of time until I get my $1,000 back. And so you've been bonded to me. And so regardless of what happens to the market, you have signed an agreement that you will pay me back what I paid you. And so
Yes, sir.
that's what a bond
And
does.
what's one propaganda I did see that that made me fear when I was younger? It was a propaganda video saying, showing China ruling America. We ruled you because we own everything you have. We own you. Even my dad would always tell me that kind of stuff. Yeah, he owns us.
Well, we used to, and this is the reason why you're seeing so many problems here today. We live in a rent to own society rather than an own to rent society. This is the way people were able to generate so much wealth back a few years ago, rather than today. And I understand that today credit is harder to get, it built slower, but we're living in a rent to own society rather than a own to rent. Let's say, for instance, you you own your house. If you own your house, you don't have to pay any debt. You don't have to pay any mortgage bill, anything like that. All you have to do is pay the property taxes that your home was on, the electric bill and the water bill. You don't have to worry about paying that big mortgage. So now you have, let's say, $1,000 a month left in your pocket that is free money that you can use for other things. And so what we would used to do, and this is a real estate example, what we used to do is we'd save that money or we'd invest that money, and once that money's built up to a certain level, we go and buy another house, and then now we own the house, and then we can rent it out and make a profit off of it. But today, instead of owning everything, we rent everything. Think about your cell phone. Or I don't know if you do it, but I know a lot of people do it. I know I'm doing it right now. I had a cell phone, a J3 Prime, cost me $120. I paid for it in cash, and now I upgrade to a Samsung S9. It's my just $1,000 phone. Now I have to pay in addition to my monthly bill. I've got to pay a month-to-month phone fee. Rather than owning the phone, I'm renting the phone. At any point in time, if I stop making that payment, they can come and take my phone, or they can sue and take my phone.
I
Whereas
mean, how many
before,
how many
we
lenders do you think could actually be out there? You know, you can't just be there. Can't everybody can be a loaner.
well,
You know, there has to be
the
people
world
who
is full the
want to
world is
buy
full
a
of
loan
loan.
from you. So it can't say that the whole world. So this whole is kind of saying you got to work. And a lot of people don't the pursuit of happiness upon this.
But the pursuit of happiness means that you have to actually pursue something. You can't just you see
Exactly, and a lot of
this
people
is the
don't do
this
that.
is the biggest problem.
Being
Go
said
ahead.
it. I like you said it. You rent, not rent to own. Wait, I don't know how you said it.
I said
In
we
my
what I said
language.
was we we spend too much time renting to own instead of owning to rent, because the pursuit of
That's powerful.
happiness
That's powerful.
is not about see, this is what they want to do is they want to replace pursue with provide, that the government is to provide you with happiness. How can the government provide you with happiness if the government is run by people that are just as miserable as you are, and you want somebody like that to be in control of your happiness, and they don't even know what makes you happy. And money does not buy happiness, but it is the quickest way to reach your happiness. You see, money is not evil. The love of money is, though. But and everything that you want to do, if you really wanted to do something, let's say for instance, Jay, you like to drink. You like to get drunk and have
Hell
fun,
yeah. I'll give that a hell yeah.
and there's nothing in this world that will stop you from going to get you a beer if you run out, because you want to have a drink. Nothing's going to get in the way of stopping you. So why then would you make an excuse for whatever something is it rained, so I can't go out and pursue my dreams and become happy in what I want to
Well,
do?
I'll tell you this, man. I'll tell you this. If I want to be a little slow some, sell some kind of person, just drink my beer, do my thing, and say, you know what, I can live off the society because you know there is a plan by these radical Democrats that want to play so much socialism that they said we want to have a basic income in this country. I mean, what do you think that would happen to us? What do you like? Free healthcare, free schooling. I mean, we need these businesses to run. If we
Well,
have
our
governments signing
country
that
would
shit off,
collapse.
saying that we owe you, and we can cut off money when we want from you just because you're not listening to us, that takes away our liberty to do what we want because we're going to be ruled more. We're going to be told more to do. You know, we're going to have to play by
Exactly.
their rules.
Liberty means freedom. The freedom to choose what you want to do. But this is the problem. People are okay with the freedom part, but they don't want to deal with the consequence part. Liberty is liberty is a double-edged sword. You're free to make your own decisions. You're free to choose to do what you want to do, but you're also free to accept the consequences of what you do. If you want to go,
I think that makes me a more sociable person. You know, I could be that lazy person that's drinking every day and be,
yeah,
giving everything just to kill myself. No, sir. No, sir. I'd rather give, my due, and I'd rather say I gotta work, and I gotta. It makes me more of a better person. It makes me more of a man. It makes me say I have to do and be something a part of society.
exactly. When, but this is what they want. They want to they want to remove from themselves personal responsibility because they don't like the consequences of making their own choices. They don't want to be held responsible for what they chose to do if it's a bad result. So they want the government to be responsible for those choices and decisions. And so they have, and so in order to prevent themselves from taking, from growing a couple, from growing a set and taking and manning up and taking responsibility for what it is you got to do, they, they want the government to do it for them.
Yes, sir. I mean, I feel more powerful person to say, I want to be the head of the house. I want to be the God fearer, the God say that this is my house and I've done everything to protect you and do anything for you. I mean, I want to be that. So
Now here's a question
they
for
better
you.
make me. They better.
I've
They better
I've
make me work. I mean, you have to
I've
work
let you
to get good. A man has to work.
I've let you ask most of the questions as I said that I would. But I got a question for you, and because we're getting ready to come up on our final couple of minutes here. I'll end it at 50. Uh, so you're a Mexicano, a Mexican American. You were born here,
Yes, sir.
and so when you hear the president talk about building a wall, and you hear the president talking about illegal immigration and how it impacts the American communities, how does that make you
I'll
feel?
tell you this, man. I mean, I'll go ahead and go with your statement. I mean, let me let you finish.
Oh, I'm asking you, how does that make you feel? What do you think of when he says things like that? What does that make you feel?
Look, man, I'm a very emotional person. I do care about a lot of things. But when I think about the nation, I think about us. I think about us first. I mean, I'm not gonna be biased. I don't want to just say just because it's affecting my race or my thing. I'm sorry, but I'm American, and I got to say I care about us. Okay, I'm not gonna be biased. And if it was, and I expect, so maybe like even a white person to say, I don't care. But I don't want that same person to be Mexican in a different lifetime or in the same situation and say, you know what, I care now just because it's happening to me in my race and it's affecting me. No, I think about America as us. I mean, this we are, and I've already had a lot of problems with that when I was growing up. I mean, I was Mexican, but I'd also see like my parents are immigrants, and they came illegally. How ironic, right? But they ended up getting the green card, and I was born in the United States. I thank God I was in the place that's happening right now. But I would still want this, regardless if I was there or not. But growing up, I saw how the cartel. I saw how they do sex trafficking, trafficking these humans even across the border, all these drugs. Nothing's gonna stop them. Nothing's gonna stop them. And the sin of man to say that I want pleasure is not gonna stop any kind of person. It doesn't matter if they're Mexican, who they are, what they believe, but that that the man of sinful lust is the reason we need to build a wall because that's not gonna stop that. And I think a wall would work. I mean, it'll make it a lot harder. People say it's not going to do anything, but I think it's going to make it harder. It's not going to be make it
Okay, so
impossible.
let me ask you this then. You talked about the cartels, and I know that you've been a Mexican American. I know that that's something that probably strikes home for a lot of you and your community. When you hear about the cartels and the coyotes, we have all these different caravans, and the statistics come out that one in three one in three young women in these cartels in these caravans get raped and molested on the way to the border. And then you see the
It happens
statistics
100%.
that say that that almost sixty
I'll tell you
percent
this.
of
I'll
these
cut you off at
people.
that. I don't need your statistics. It's going to happen. If you play yourself and say it doesn't happen, you're delusional. I've seen pictures of little kids stuffed in cars dead. They don't care about these people. They will leave them out there. They just take your money. They don't care. I think they're doing so much better detaining these people at a border. And I hate that they say it's detention camps. It's not detention. They're saying that they want to come in here. They want to seek asylum. I'm sorry that the conditions are not good. I wasn't expecting so much people to come at once. I mean, but I'm trying to stop the inflow, and it dropped real close. And I don't know what happened. whether it be what I've heard that went out to these other countries, we will pay for your healthcare, we will pay for your stuff. Just go to America, we will take care of you. Oh, and I mean these immigrants from the Middle East and all this stuff. But put out there to just it's free and easy. And whenever Donald Trump was caravans and caravans, I mean maybe I'm a paranoid person. There was like 5,000 people in the caravans. You know, could we have a system of socialism, or really put upon us just because we have to give them the free stuff? That's force the communism on us. I mean socialism on us. I'm sorry, because it gives them the free healthcare and they're already expecting it, and then everybody else say, you know what, I want that too. I'm an American person. I care about us. What about us? And then people are gonna vote the Democrats because it's gonna be everybody free. We're all even now.
Okay. Well, we're going to get ready to have the last words, and then I'll end the video. So, anything else that you want to say or that you want to ask? I'll give you the last word.
Well, man, it was good talking to you. Like always, man. There's no stop to it. I hope it continues, and I hope new things come up. And see you again.
All right. Well, we'll keep doing these videos. We're going to do another one here in DC, in our Fireside chat on Saturday, which I don't know what Saturday is. I think it's the 23rd. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But I think it's the 23rd. But final points, final words. Today in America, we are more divided in mind than we are in actuality. There used to be a time in our country where we followed the law, where we took pride in our education, where we took pride in our law enforcement, where we took pride in our country. We sung songs about our country, and we didn't tolerate people going to other countries talking bad about our country. There was a time when we were very in tune with the law and our Constitution. And I think it's about time that we return back to the basics of our Constitution and allow for the president that we have today to be the president. If Congress used to fight for justice and equality, but now Congress continues to fight against one of the other three powers that make our country work. And I hope that in anything and everything that we do, I hope that people can live their life in a way that they can stop seeing color and start seeing ideas. And as I've said before to many different people, in my hierarchy of how I see myself in America, I'm American before I'm black, and I'm Christian before I'm American. And it's time that we put God back in America and America back in us. And that's my final thoughts. I thank you, DemonicJay, for joining me on my show. I know that you said that you're a little bit nervous, but you did well. And this will be posted to YouTube, and we'll also post it on the Facebook page, and I might even post it on my political campaign website. But let's go ahead and end this video at 49 minutes and 15 seconds.
Yeah, have a good one.